What's up everyone? Today is a Tuesday tips video. This is going to be about 5 things you should not do as a portraits photographer. I've been doing photography for a little over 15 years now, and I've been doing portrait photography for about 10 years. And I started out doing portraits just because I really liked capturing portraits, and that was the type of photography I really enjoyed. And here are 5 things I've learned that you should not do as a portrait photographer. Number 1, do not invade their personal space. So do not touch your model. Give your model verbal directions instead of touching them. They will understand what you're talking about. In the past, I've seen photographers touch the model's hair, their arms, their neck, their legs. It's strange because first off, I don't know what their relationship with the model is, but even then, you shouldn't be touching the model at all. Give them verbal directions or just give them direction and the model will know what to do and how to pose. And even if the model gave him permission, I still feel kind of uncomfortable just touching them. You know, just giving them verbal direction, like, or you just pose yourself. Give them that kind of direction and they'll know what to do. And most common, people with long hair, you can just let them know like, hey, this hair is on your face or this hair is on this. Just let them know and they will make that change right away. So if you consider yourself to be a professional photographer, be professional and just direct them. Don't touch them. Number 2, don't make inappropriate or unprofessional comments. I've gone to photo collaborations where the photographer makes really uncomfortable and really inappropriate comments to the models. It's literally just catcalling the models too, which is super uncomfortable and makes it really weird for everyone around too, especially if everyone hears it. But again, I don't know the relationship between the models, but if you're there and you see how the model's face is, you already know they're already uncomfortable, so you don't need to catcall them, especially during a photo shoot. You know, for example, when I was at the photo shoot, I would actually hear a photographer say, "Oh, that's a very sexy pose. Do that pose again and touch yourself like this." That's what they said. They said, touch yourself like this. And I was just like, just trying to hold myself back because they were trying to be professional, but at the same time, you can just see in the model's face where they were just kind of uncomfortable. They didn't really say anything. Just something that as a photographer, you do need to learn your boundaries and just make sure that you're not saying anything inappropriate. Definitely make sure you're chatting with your model and just kind of get a feel for them so they're comfortable with you too. And I think this is where you need to be a professional here too, especially if this is their first time working with a model. Number 3, do not give vague or unclear directions to your model. I've seen this with a lot of photographers that aren't really familiar with poses. And I've also talked to other photographers that have been frustrated with the model because the model didn't know how to pose. And this was coming from a photographer that claimed to be a professional photographer. I think if you're claiming to be a professional photographer, you need to know and understand how to pose your model or just in a portrait session. Because if you don't, those pictures, they're gonna turn out bad because of you. Those models or those people that don't know how to pose, they're relying on you as a professional photographer to pose the way you want them to pose because, you know, they hired you. You're a professional photographer. You should know these things. So do not give out vague and unclear direction. For example, like, hey, you need to just move your shoulders or relax your shoulders. I think that's one of the most common ones I hear. Or, you know, just move your hand this way or just look this way or feel this way. That's very vague. And that can be really frustrating for the model from what I've heard. And just make sure you're more clear and you know what kind of photos you're trying to take with the model. Number 4, don't make them feel rushed or uncomfortable. Give the model time to adjust, especially if you're both working together. I've been in situations where the photographer will constantly move the model and the model literally just got there and they're just applying their makeup, making sure they're ready, you know, just kind of relaxing, feel the vibe of the studio or the setting. And the photographer just says, hey, you're ready? Let's go shoot. And the model is just like, whoa, hold on, give me some time. You know, I've seen that face before, and thankfully it's not common, but it does happen where the model's just like, okay, I guess we're just ready to shoot. Gives them a feeling of rush, and I think when people are rushed, it gives them like an unease. Especially, it'll show up in the pictures too. If the model isn't comfortable, it's gonna show. Number 5, don't keep photographing without giving feedback. This is a pretty common mistake for new photographers. I did this in the past, and I did learn from it. It's always beneficial to let the models know how well they're doing and how great they are at what they're doing. This goes for portrait sessions as well. You need to let people know that they're doing a great job and their poses are good and they look great. You gotta give them that confidence. And this goes for new models, and if you're doing portrait sessions, this goes for those people too, because if you're not giving them feedback, it's not gonna look good. Just imagine if someone was taking a picture of you and all they just did was this. And you know, there's no expression. You're not giving them any feedback to improve or anything, and you're just hoping those pictures turn out good. I've seen that happen before, and it's a bummer, and I feel so bad for those models, especially if it's a collaboration and the photographers just, you know, just give a blank face. They're just like, the thumbs up, like what? Yeah, it's thumbs up, but you know, they need some reassurance that they did a good job. So definitely reassure that your models are doing a great job. So those are the 5 things I think portrait photographers need to remember and need to not do during a photo session. And especially if you consider yourself to be a professional photographer, you have to work with what you have. And this goes for brand new models that aren't familiar with posing, or just people that aren't good at posing. And again, if you are a professional photographer, if you consider yourself to be a professional portraits photographer, you cannot blame the inexperienced model for your lack of photography skills. I've heard photographers tell me that the pictures didn't turn out good because of the poses the models did. And I'm thinking they're just like, you know, you are the photographer, you're supposed to direct them, you're supposed to pose them. The picture is turning out bad because of you. You are the photographer, direct them, pose them, and you take that photograph for that model. You can't put the blame on the model, especially if you consider yourself a professional photographer. If you do consider yourself a professional portrait photographer, you need to blame yourself and not the model or the pictures, because I'm expecting you to be good at poses, good at your shots, understand the exposure triangle, the whole 9 yards about photography. And I believe that if you are blaming the model, that means you're not a good photographer, or you just don't have enough experience to understand that it's actually you, the photographer, that's not good, not the model. So maybe next time if I do hear this, I just need to tell the photographer this, because I was just thinking in my head, like, why would you think these pictures are bad because you are not good at posing? So whatever. So those are the 5 things I think every portrait photographer should remember and should not do during a portrait session. I know there's a lot more, and please share your stories and what you've learned as a portrait photographer in the comments below, because I'd love to hear your experiences as a portrait photographer. Let me know your good or bad experiences as a portrait photographer. Thanks for watching, everyone. See ya.